Welcome to another episode of Distorted Opinions. As always, I'm joined by Matt and Ted, and the last video game soundtrack episode that we did was hugely popular, and we got a lot of comments and messages from you guys telling us that we forgot this game or that game, and so we decided now might be a good time to revisit this show. And we're not going to be able to get through every song and soundtrack that you guys recommended, but we're hoping we can at least get through a few more. Today, we're excited because we have another guest on our show. Our longtime friend Keisha is joining us. Keisha, thanks for being on the show. We're excited to have you. And Keisha is a serious gamer. I'm talking wait outside the store until midnight when a game is released and then spending the next day playing the game level of gaming. Serious gamer. She's also a fantastic chef. We're excited to have her on the show. Keisha, thank you. I know you've got a lot of songs to talk about. I know we've got a lot of songs together to talk about and a very little time to do it, so I think we should dive right in. Why don't you first tell us a little bit about the whole waiting in line until midnight to get
I'm curious
games.
to know what game was that?
Oh God!
Yeah.
Or how many games did you wait for outside at midnight?
Okay,
It has to be Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
No, it was not. Any other guesses?
An Assassin's Creed game.
No.
Grand Theft Auto?
No.
Mortal Kombat?
Negative. Ooh, but that's a good one.
All right, you just got to tell us.
All right, so
Talk to me.
it was for a game and console combo. So I waited outside of Target for 14 hours in the dead of winter for the Wii when it first came out.
I remember that.
Wow.
I remember that.
And I
With your
was-
brother, no?
For a Wii?
Yeah,
Well, at the time, it was a cool thing.
yeah, context matters. Okay,
Right,
so like,
right.
first of all, this was like the
Ladies and gentlemen, if that's not dedication, then I can't even fathom
14
what.
hours.
Wow.
Leominster Target. It was,
Oh, no.
it was so cold. Oh my God, all I had, my brother left me. So like, he was there for like 30 minutes. He was
I
basically
forgot.
died. He left me because it was so cold. And he left me with orange juice, 2 Twinkies, and a blanket.
How many other people were in line with you at that point?
Oh, so I was out of the 16 that they had, I was 7th in line.
Wow.
So you knew it was a big deal because when I got there, people had like tents pitched and like little televisions and everything that they were watching. And here I roll in with my brother, completely unprepared. And the fact that he left, he was just like, "You good?" No, I'm not. He's like, "Call me when you get it," and then just peeled out.
Oh my God.
So how long did those 2 Twinkies last you? Because that should be not enough for 14 hours.
No, I just like sat there and I forgot what movie the couple in front of me was watching, but I pretty much just watched the movie with them. Like all cold in my little blanket. And I think I just had one of the 2 Twinkies. I was good. The orange juice I drank though, the orange juice I needed. And what was super scary was that, you know, this is also during a time like first Black Friday wasn't like a crazy thing yet, but definitely game releases were. So these are when people were like getting shot at various like places for video games. So I was super paranoid. So I drank my orange juice and I remember I called my brother, not because they give you a ticket before they give you the console. That's how they purge the line. So like, you have this ticket, so come back in an hour when we open and then you'll just be able to get it. So I called my brother. He's like, "You got it?" I was like, "No, I got to use the bathroom." So it was for the Wii, guys. It was for the Wii.
And what game did it come with?
It came with like all these.
At a Wii, waiting
Wii?
for the Wii.
It had like a Wii Play. It was like a combo pack of games. And I remember the Wii Play had a really cool like person shooter game because, you know, it was like the first time that you had to use like the Wii chucks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it was like a first person shooter. You're just like hunting. And one of them was like, you're just shooting ducks. But then the last one, it was your avatar. So you're me, but you were about to be abducted by like an alien invader. Yes, this is real. And like by the time you start shooting the like UFOs, your me like just starts panicking and running around. So the target keeps changing. Oh my god, it's hilarious. You should just watch clips of it if you need a good laugh. But that was
that's funny. That's funny. You weren't one of the unfortunate people who threw their nunchucks into their TV, were you? Because I know that was a common problem when the Wii was first released, that people were damaging their TVs because they were throwing their controllers across the room.
Yes. I did not throw it at the TV because I'm smarter than that and I protect my investments. However, everybody who plays video games has the frustrated. The thing is, like by that time they had like handles, like they had
the safety straps or whatever.
Yeah, the straps. So like you're like, but then they just be like.
And then it ricochets and it hits you instead.
Yeah, it doesn't work out that well. But I think the game. What was there was a Zelda that was coming out. This Twilight Princess. Mm-hmm. Twilight Princess came out, and that was fantastic game. It was so dark and like it was all everyone thought that was the like spiritual sequel to Ocarina of Time because there was one in between there that a lot of gamers couldn't really enjoy or had some concerns with because of the style of game, but that one came out, and so I played that game religiously. So I got home. It was on a Sunday. Didn't even go to church, which is like a big deal for me. So like, I played it for
basically said Jesus can wait. Link.
Yeah, I was like
0 times more important.
No, I was like, thank you, God. Like, I got a great day. I expressed more gratitude for the fact I was like, I'm at home in one piece. Took a long shower because I was freezing, so I had to warm back up. And then I had the benefit of my mom making like Sunday dinner, but I'm playing my game now. So I played it, and I remember playing it solid for a couple of days. And then my brother-in-law showed up. He's a big Zelda fan, so he went to go play, and he saved in the only like glitch part of the game. And
oh no!
That happens.
Yeah. So that was the infamous story of me waiting out. And the last time I did that, because there are better ways now. We have so many other ways.
That's right.
Acquiring games. Thank God for downloadable content. Like.
Yeah, and just getting away from needing an actual disc. As long as you have the space on your console, just downloading it it's very different than the way things used to be. Yes, very boomer for me to say.
Yeah, but it's facts though, right? Like there's something so wonderfully nostalgic about how we played games then.
Oh yeah.
You just gotta hope that the servers don't crash when 12:01 happens, when those games are released.
Right.
Oh man.
So that was that. That was my journey to Wii status and Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, and speaking of Legend of Zelda, so for this episode, I picked Legend of Zelda, the Super Nintendo version, A Link to the Past. Which is, for me, so first of all, I went over to Google and I looked up Link to the Past, and it says that 95% of users liked the game, and I'm just wondering what's wrong with the other 5% of people who didn't like the game. I mean, seriously? Who doesn't like...
Those are the Pong people. Those are the Pac-Man people. Yeah. Those are the Donkey Kong people. Those are the people that just don't truly know what a good, great game Link to the Past is.
I guess. I mean, I thought everybody short of maybe those who were born in the last decade was familiar with A Link to the Past and loved it. Maybe it's just me. Personally, I feel like it's one of the best video games out there, but it also has a nostalgia factor for me because, as I mentioned the last time we were on this topic, I spent a lot of time as a kid watching my grandfather play video games, and largely video games on Super Nintendo. And so along with Secret of Mana was A Link to the Past. And so those two games for me have some of the most memorable music, and they're just great, memorable games. And I just love the soundtrack from A Link to the Past. And I'm kind of ashamed to say that I'm not as familiar with some of the other versions of Zelda and the Zelda series. I've played Ocarina of Time, and I've played the Game Boy version, but I've never completed them, so I've only played, a little bit of them. So I'm not as familiar with the soundtracks, and I'm sure there's some really great songs in those games, but for me, the Link to the Past soundtrack just has so many songs that are memorable that you hear them and that is a song from Link to the Past. And I'd also mentioned in our previous episode on this topic, OC Remix, which is a website that's just user-created covers of video game songs. They have a lot of amazing covers from this game as well. And it's, I highly recommend checking it out. They have a lot of other games on there too, but they've got some amazing Link to the Past covers. So while I'm not as familiar with the other games in the series, that one for me is one that I always found to be memorable. I loved the game. I loved the music. And that's a game that stood out to me. So I'll leave it at that for my my Legend of Zelda pick for this episode. But Keisha, I know you had some other throwbacks that you had talked about a bit in our pre-show conversation, and Matt and Ted, you had some great songs and some great games as well. So I don't know if we want to throw it back over to one of you, or if Keisha, you want to talk about.
There's one thing about, before we jump off the Link to the Past topic, is I 100% agree with you. I personally think it's a great classic. It's one of those games that you could just pick up, and it's hard to put the controller down just because the whole gaming system, the whole story behind Link to the Past is incredible, especially the introduction to what's known as the Dark World. And even the Dark World theme song is nostalgic just as much as, the title theme to Zelda.
Sure.
So, but I remember, and I'm not sure how you guys felt about at the very beginning, but I was a little bit creeped out in the very beginning of the opening sequence to Legend of Zelda, only because the music was dark. So, if you recall, and for those that, and yes, this might be a little spoiler, so you might want to pause for anyone that's listening, but if you recall in the beginning... Fast
forward, not pause.
Okay, pause. If you recall in the beginning of Link to the Past, that it opens up with pretty much like a message, and there's eerie music behind it, and you don't realize that it's actually Princess Zelda that's talking to you in your dreams. And then you have to go search for her, and then you're going into this dungeon, and of course you have like no weapon, and you have to go go through all these guards and monsters, go grab her. But even so, it's just the whole music behind that whole part in the very beginning it's dark. It's pretty creepy. So, you got to imagine being like a 7 or 8 year old at that time, being told about this whole Legend of Zelda. Of course, you played, Zelda on NES, and now it's on the 16-bit, and you're opening up and you're playing it, and all of a sudden it's just this dark music, and you're like, ooh.
Wait a minute.
Well, and
how am I supposed to register this? And then you're like, okay, well, I guess I'll just try to find it. And then, of course, you save the princess, and then you wake up, and it's like, woohoo! It's
and to top it off with the creepy music, if I recall, isn't the uncle like stabbed in the dungeon or something, and that's where you get the sword? Yeah. So on top of creepy music, immediately a relative has been killed in the beginning of the game. So as a small child,
right? It's right.
As a small child, that might be a little off-putting, but by today's standards, certainly not as gory and creepy as some of the video games that are out today, where it's very realistic in the graphics and the gore, and then you've got the music on top of that. So, but back as a kid, when that's the first thing that happens in the game, it's like,
it's funny. I'm curious to see, they remastered Link to the Past for
Oh, really?
They did. And I haven't personally played it, so I mean, anyone that's listening, give us your thoughts on how is the new Link to the Past.
I don't want to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it. You gotta.
You played it?
Yeah.
What am I thinking?
Not see Keisha's hat. She's wearing the Triforce symbol.
Yes, I am.
My bad.
Yes, yes. Of course. I mean, they can re-release that on any console for anything. I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna play it, like, just because.
Sure.
But like, also, anybody else remember, like, every time you get an item, it's like da 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 da.
Yes.
The most like self-accomplishing sound ever. Like,
Yes. And he holds it up over his head.
I do that when I change my kid's diaper.
You should feel accomplished. Like, yeah, it's quality. It's quality. If you don't have a Switch, get one. Play it.
Yeah, if you can find one, because
that's true.
Right now everything's sold out. Like Switches being one of them.
Quarantine Chronicles, man.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
hey, this is a time for all video gamers out there. This is like, paradise to them.
Especially these hours, these long play games. You know what I mean? So Zelda series is notorious for being a game that you're gonna like sit down and play for a while. You're either gonna like try to knock out as many hours as you can, at the moment you get it, or space it out. But it's interesting when you talk about like now people can beat A Link to the Past in like a couple of hours. And their latest release, Breath of the Wild, is like you can spend an eternity going back to that game and continuously playing it. So that's pretty awesome.
For sure.
Yeah,
awesome.
Memorable tunes. So
yes,
picking up on your Link to the Past. One of my favorites. I think the next big one after that, big Zelda release was Ocarina of Time, of course. One of the greatest Zelda of all time. And they had, everyone can remember when you hit Gerudo Valley and all of a sudden you're hit with like this guitar.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. That's like, it's literally one of my favorites. There's these two gentlemen were playing it. I'll have to share that link, but like these two gentlemen are playing the acoustic version of that, like on the street. And what frustrated me was that people were just walking past them, not knowing like the excellence that they were listening to.
Most of those 5%.
Yeah, that is the 5%.
And it just dang you all. But there's something so like familiar yet otherworldly about that piece that just makes it so much fun. And because you're in like Gerudo Valley, which is like the desert, and it sounds like you're in the desert. It sounds like you're in this like mysterious land where these women kick your butt. So it's
very true. It was also the level where you needed to use both young Link and adult Link in order to pass the level. So there was a point in time where you were stuck and it's like, oh cool, I have to go now through this little hole. Oh, looks like I have to pull out the ocarina, pull out the Song of Time song.
Yep.
Go back in time, travel, because of course you couldn't jump on Epona when you're a young Link. So of course you had to walk your small ass all the way over to Gerudo Valley. And then you're like, okay, now where do we begin?
Right.
Hyrule Fields felt so massive in Ocarina of Time because, man, I gotta go to the Temple of Time to Gerudo Valley. Like,
damn you.
Oh, that is one of my favorites. That song right there, and then the one that people, such mixed reviews, but I loved Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. And it's not for the reasons people think. It was too cutesy for a lot of gamers. They're like, I can't do it. Like, it's too cartoony. I'm not going to make it through this game. I played that with my little brother. And what got me first was how it was orchestrated. I think that was the big deal. Of course, all Legend of Zelda games are notorious for incorporating music because like the player, Link himself, will play instruments. It's not just Link, it's Zelda with her harp and Skyward Sword. There's so many musical elements incorporated into the game that this one, they released a 25th anniversary when Skyward Sword came out, 25th anniversary remix, orchestral remix of a lot of the Legend of Zelda tunes, but the Wind Waker by far is my favorite. It feels so folklore, and it feels like they really got the feel of what it was like to be on the water, feel like you're journeying to all these other islands. And then like the last 3 minutes of that piece is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely great. So Matt, you should go back and play that again. I know you can't stand it.
Oh. Okay, I have to admit, like,
Now Matt's in that 5%. Is that what we're just calling it now?
No, time out.
From one game to the other. Like,
Hey now.
it's fantastic. But Wind Waker, though, I don't know.
Time out. I am part of the 5% when it comes down to Wind Waker. I will admit, I was like, I'm kind of like, hey, this is a little too cutesy for me. Or more importantly, I did kind of force myself to go ahead and get a little more adept to it, but I don't know, just it's that whole playing Link to the Past, then playing Ocarina of Time, then playing Majora's Mask, which I'm surprised no one's brought up Majora's Mask. Maybe that's part of kind of going back to what Kayla was mentioning about there's certain games out there that didn't receive much, kind of half and half, 50-50. And then there was Wind Waker. But I think, and I'm being completely transparent here, I think the reason why I didn't like Wind Waker was because I judged it before it came out. So that was around the time where, the GameCube obviously was already out, and they were going to introduce the next Zelda. Well, the next Zelda they were showing clips, clips, and they were showing still frames of what looked like a remastered version of Ocarina of Time, but obviously with better graphics. So I'm thinking, this is great. And there was actually a reading or an article that said there was a point where you actually fought Ganondorf a lot more than just once. So I'm thinking, okay, this is great. And it's on the GameCube. It's going to have all these amazing graphics. That's great. Then they come out with Wind Waker, and I'm going, this is a joke, right? So I'm like, all right, well, you know what? Hey, it is the next Zelda. Might as well. Again, Keisha, with you, when the Zelda game came out, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. And at that time, before it came out, Nintendo released what was called I wish I had it with me, but it was like a promo disc for GameCube. And you can only get it on pre-order if you pre-ordered, I believe, I want to say it was, don't quote me, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say it was a pre-order for Wind Waker, but it was a promo that said not for sale, and it was Ocarina of Time on GameCube. Then there was Ocarina of Time Master Quest, and then there was a disc, and on that same disc was a demo for Wind Waker. So I thought, okay, you know what? If I'm gonna pre-order this, at least I get a chance to go ahead and play the demo to Wind Waker. And on top of that, even if I don't like Wind Waker, at least I could play Ocarina of Time or Master Quest on the GameCube now, because at that time I already got rid of my Nintendo 64 and I didn't have an emulator. Okay, to go ahead and play.
Blasphemy to get rid of that N64, by the way. What are you doing?
You said
can't do that.
You got rid of your Nintendo 64?
That's what I thought you just said.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought you said blast you. Oh, yeah.
No, blasphemy. You got rid of your N64.
Blasphemy.
Yeah. I didn't mean to stumble my words.
Yes. So, needless to say, obviously we fixed that. We fixed that scenario and whatnot. But yeah, it's Wind Waker. I'll give it another try again. I'll give it another try.
Please. It's great. I mean, and then just to get through what happens on a music standpoint, you would really appreciate it, because the two characters that you're going to interact with the most, one plays a harp, the other one plays a fiddle. So what you find is you're going to help one and they're going to play a song, the other one plays their version of the same song. But at the end, when the credits are rolling, you hear how they blend those together. So I think it's like, it kind of closes the story up in a very beautiful way. And then you should listen to how they remastered that score.
I found my homework for the weekend, or for this day. Well, since we're kind of on a Nintendo topic and whatnot, I'll jump right in with it's not so much Legend of Zelda, but I'm going to turn things a little bit. So for those that are listening, there's been multiple occasions where people know that I'm an 80s guy. Okay, love 80s, everything about the 80s. And when it comes down to video game music, again, it's the 80s. So what I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to be talking on really one specific game. And I'll save my golden one for the song of the week. But the game I'm going to be talking about is Double Dragon for NES, Nintendo Entertainment System. This game I hold heart even to this day, and when my son gets old, I hope to introduce it to him. But Double Dragon is a game, obviously a fighting game that was released, and it was originally released in Japan, released back over here. And I want to say, got my notes right here, I want to say 1987. So it is, like I said, it's a beat 'em up fighter game. The music, when you open it up, has got this rock ensemble theme song to it. And the composer is, and I'm probably going to butcher this, Kazunaka Yaman. Kazunaka Yaman.
That's a tough one.
Try my best.
Put that on screen
Forever.
for those who are watching.
But when you start this game up and you boot it up, you're just blasted with the theme song, and it instantly catches your attention to go ahead and continue and start the game, jumping right into it. Again, it's one of those games that's a little dark in the very beginning. So the first sequence, the first mission, okay, is opening up, and you see these three dudes, and you see just this girl, and this dude comes over and punches this girl in the gut, and she passes out, and then she walks away. And of course, now I'm like maybe 5 years old, not really understanding this, but I do understand that, hey, you're not supposed to hit women. So I'm seeing this for the first time going, what the hell am I playing? Obviously, I'm 5 years old, so I'm not thinking, what the hell am I thinking? Obviously saying, what the hell? Okay, but I do recall my dad playing this game with me, and and he's going, okay, this is just kind of like a beat 'em up. We gotta go save the girl, kind of save the princess like in Mario. So I'm like, all right, we'll go over. So, okay, I'm kicking these guys' asses, and thing. And all of a sudden, this big character comes in. He's called Bobo. And this guy's like, a Terry Crews, okay, and compared to like my little, Billy or Jimmy character, and he just destroys me. Now, later on down the road, okay, again, the music changes. And then there's this, ventilator, okay, that goes and drops over. What's the Bobo do? He goes and kicks me in the gut, and then I fall into the ventilator, and then, of course, I'm sorry, not the ventilator, just the hole. I don't know. I'm getting too excited talking about this. What I'm saying is...
He's getting amped.
Double Dragon, okay, if anyone knows, it's a great nostalgic game with amazing music. There's multiple levels. And what was great about it, too, is that the Double Dragon game also featured what was called Mode B. So Mode B allowed you to go ahead and play some of the other enemy characters on top of you being either Billy or Jimmy. But what was great about it was a different concept. So it was kind of like two games in one. One, you had a side scroller, and Mode B was like a Mortal Kombat kind of theme, where it was just like two characters fighting against each other. But what was great about that part was, again, the music. Each character had a different theme song to when you picked them. So when you picked your character, it played a different theme song for every fight that you played. So my personal favorite was Chinny Lee, who just, I think, had the greatest theme song throughout the whole series. But you can only hear this theme song when you played Mode B. So other than that's my game. I'm gonna shift it over to Ted.
I've definitely seen Double Dragon. I believe they have it at Fun Spot, and I've seen it at a lot of arcade cabinet style arcades have that game for sure. And Double Dragon 2, I think, in arcade as well. But yeah, I can't say that I've actually played that one. I mean, I've probably put a few quarters in at the arcade, but that was ages ago at this point, unfortunately. But to transition into the game that I have for this episode, it is a throwback, and I still play this game to this day. I've revisited it a number of times through the years. It's 20 years old at this point. It is Diablo 2, the PC game. Absolute masterpiece of a game. Played it over and over and over. I've beaten it probably 6 times. I just love the loot system and being able to use the Horadric cube to put chip gems together to transmute them into higher level gems, which obviously you can put into weapons and shields and all of that. And the other part about it is that the soundtrack to Diablo 2, and I know we talked about it, dark games and dark music. Diablo 2 is no different than any of those other ones. The soundtrack really is very atmospheric, and it complements every level so well that I find myself wanting to go to certain levels just to hear the background music. So I'll spend a lot of time in Act 2, which is the desert style level. But I will have to say that Act 1, the theme, it's going to be my song of the week too. I'll just jump in quickly here, but like the rogue, the song that you hear when you're in camp and you're trying to figure out who you are or where you are, and it just complements your experience through the game. You're going through the different levels, different areas, and there's a different song for different sections, and it's similar but different. It's creepy and kind of gives you this unknown feeling of what to expect because you're fighting demons and all these other creatures. But it does such a wonderful job at just setting the tone for the game and all the different levels, all the different acts. I think, not only is that game, still holding up. I'm still playing it clearly, but the soundtrack obviously plays very heavily into, the experience of the game and, how fun it actually is. And just a couple of notes for, some of the different tracks. There's a lot of percussion hidden within the tracks, some one-offs. It almost could be classified as experimental, some random snare drum, just a couple of hits here and there, just to kind of throw your mind off as you're, you're going down this, spider cave or whatever. And, you're just not sure what's around the next corner because your character can only see so much ahead of them. And then it's just dark. So you don't know what else is around the corner. So, it definitely lends very well to the gameplay. And then I mentioned the desert act, where it's basically you go through the desert to acquire the Horadric cube and the staff and all of that. But in that particular act, the music lends a lot of Arabic influence. So you get a lot of Arabian kind of vibe with the sand dunes that just go on forever, and there's some percussion and some cymbals in there that really again just gives you the atmosphere of where you are, and it does such a wonderful job. So Diablo 2 all day is definitely one of the great soundtracks, and definitely why I made it my pick for today. So short and sweet, because my song of the week is going to be one of the tracks off of Diablo 2, but don't know if any of you guys have played that. Yeah, I'm assuming Keisha has.
I was thinking about when you're talking about that particular act. I was like, oh my god, yeah.
You're right. It just influences your experience of the game, and it plays such a big part in it.
That's when you feel really submersed into it.
Yeah,
it's in that act.
You're right. You figured out how the game is, and then you're like, okay, this is how we're doing this. Okay, yeah, I'm ready.
So what are your thoughts on Diablo 3? Have you played that one?
I have not played that one. I've seen plenty of memes for it. Because
it's gone to that level where it has memes. All right.
Yeah. So so Diablo 1 was great. Diablo 2 masterpiece. Diablo 3 it was meh, and then Diablo 4 is like an embarrassment. It's just 4. Like it peaked at Diablo 2 and then it just nosedived.
Well,
for the memes.
I didn't think that they had Diablo 4, but that probably
coming
does
out.
Explain why it's an embarrassment.
Yeah, Diablo 4 is coming out.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
that was one of those games that you return. Yeah, I played it.
Yeah, right. Well, it's too late. You downloaded it. You didn't even get the disc.
Right. Oh my God.
I don't know about you guys, but I always feel like obviously the debut games are great. When they take time, when developers take time to make a sequel, sequels are either great or they're masterpieces. And then when they start going into like trilogies, like the third one's always like just tank. Like take for instance, Donkey Kong Country was a great game. Donkey Kong Country 2 was absolutely phenomenal. Donkey Kong Country 3 is crap. And
it's like at a certain point you feel like you're trying too hard.
Right.
And wanting to still ride that train of these two were really popular. So let's put together another one. And it typically misses the mark.
Yep.
It's hard to do that. And I think even if I think we talked about it with some of the Zeldas, like obviously your Keisha's Choice where, that particular Zelda was too cartoony and, it lost a bit of the fan base because Matt agreed that wasn't something that he was into, is at what point are you want to provide fan service, but you're also taking it in a different direction.
Right. And I think at some point the developers of Zelda recognized that. And I think that's when Twilight Princess came back out because they wanted to go ahead and they read that reception of Wind Waker personnel. And then they said, well, how are we going to be able to try to get something back? And then Twilight Princess came out, which, for those that did play Ocarina of Time is very close to almost like, visualize gameplay of it too, with obviously some certain elements too, like turning into a wolf.
Yeah, wolfling. Hey, he's still trotting along in Breath of the Wild. He's still there if you got the amiibo. But it's interesting because like it was cutesy, Wind Waker, but then they sold so many copies of Minish Cap, which came out for GameCube Color. Dating all of us, but and that game was fire, like because they found their footing as far as games on the go with that particular development style, like artistic style, if you will. But Legend of Zelda has inspired the reason why you can talk about other action adventure games is because of Legend in general. Like any type of open world RPG is because of Legend of Zelda.
Right. So the two founders of RPGs, definitely Legend of Zelda and Final Fantasy.
Yes. Ooh. Yeah.
Which I'm sure in another episode we'll talk about, Final Fantasy, some other time, because that could, again, this could extend
Final Fantasy in itself. That'll be, you could make an episode out of like a single
each
game.
One. Just each one.
So there's distorted opinions, then there's distorted opinions video games, and then there's distorted opinions video games Final Fantasy. It's just a whole slew of just the music that Squaresoft just Squaresoft just Square Enix too at one point just comes about.
Well, I feel like we could have easily made this episode a dedication to Legend of Zelda. We spent quite a bit of time talking about Zelda on this episode. I feel like there are a few games like that an entire episode can be spent just talking about the music from the different soundtracks and the different games in the series. So yeah, we'll be revisiting this topic again, no doubt, because we could just go on and on. I mean, honestly, this whole show could just become video games. That could be all we discuss every episode without any issue.
It's more the nostalgia factor. That's what it is. It's because, you know, we grew up playing various games that are obviously being released right now, upgraded. But like there was something about playing video games when we were younger in general that felt like, you know, a bit, you know, so fun, competitive. You know what I mean? Like type of Matt, you talked about like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter-esque type of game. It's like everyone found themselves at one point or another at somebody's house, right?
Yep.
Having a controller, playing a fighter game, right? And being like, I can't get knocked out.
GoldenEye.
Oh!
007. I mean, and then you just get on all the James Bond-esque songs in that game alone, and that GoldenEye.
GoldenEye.
Yep.
That's another episode.
That's another episode. I can't.
That's another one. That's another one. That's another one. No. Yeah, nah. One of my last song was from a game that came out in 2000s was Capcom versus SNK Millennium Fight 2000, and that's literally how it sounded when you press play to this game. And I remember, so just like any other you know, single or multiplayer combat game, you know, you're advancing through the levels, beating various characters, and you know, if you remember anything about Street Fighter world, Akuma is like the badass, right? He's this guy that has like he's like insane. But here comes Kara from the SNK world, and his name was like Rugal, literally the Lord Rugal, and he like just manhandles Akuma, and then you realize at that moment you have to fight this motherfucker. You're like, wait a second. Like, I don't know about this. So they have this cutscene, very arcade status cutscene, and then the whole world's destroyed around you, and you're like face to face with this dude. But that track was so like electronic dance, amazing. The pace of it is fantastic, and I use that till this day, either when I'm running or when I'm lifting. So it's a pretty amazing track because of the pace of that particular tune. I think it's called like The Lord God is the name of the track. So in that moment, you just feel like this extra pump, because if you're training, especially lifting, or any type of weight training, in isometrics, it's always time under tension. So you're pacing out like certain beats for your, you know, acceleration and deceleration. So that's one of the tracks that I listened to a couple times throughout the week. It's hands down one of my favorites. Great. It's a great track. Might be hard to find and or download, but if you can manage to just like, first of all, watch the cutscene, because then you'll know what I'm talking about when you're like, oh, he just like threw him like a baby.
Well, you know, it's funny too. That is an amazing, great game, and that was around the time that Capcom was starting to do a lot of crossover.
Yeah,
I was going to say, when did that get released? Like, what era?
2000.
Yeah,
something, early 2000.
It's definitely a hidden gem, because like when you're thinking about Capcom, okay, you'll think about, you know, traditional titles like Resident Evil, you'll talk about Street Fighter, but then there was a time period in the early 2000s where they started doing they did some crossovers. So someone at Capcom was like, hey, what if we did Capcom characters and SNK characters, you know, fighting each other? Again, kind of that same you know, Street Fighter context, but what if we mix those characters together? And Capcom really took off with it. So they ended up, you know, not only just doing Capcom games, but they started doing, you know, Marvel games too. So you had Marvel Superheroes, which was Marvel characters fighting each other. You had then Marvel versus Capcom, and that got a big popular following. following that, kind of going back to, you know, how sequels just dominate, you know, the series, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was a phenomenal masterpiece. And obviously, you know, they kept going on with the whole Marvel
I
versus
just pulled up the list. There's Capcom 3, Fate of Two Worlds, Marvel vs. Capcom, Origins, Clash
Marvel
of Superheroes, Infinite.
Oh, I remember that one.
Like Ultimate Marvel versus Capcom 3. Like there's just an outrageous number of variations of that game.
Very much so. And but the Capcom versus SNK is like I feel like that's a game that didn't get as popular as it should have been, because again, it is a hidden gem.
Yeah.
And for those that do like those types of games, especially, you know, the Marvel versus Capcom or anything like that, you know, Street Fighter, definitely pick that one up, because again, that's a you know, like what Keisha said, has a great theme, has a great soundtrack, and has a great gameplay too as well.
Awesome. If you guys don't have any other video games you want to talk about, I do want to give a quick shout out to somebody that Ted actually introduced me to a few weeks ago. It was kind of crazy. I was
Completely
getting
random
ready.
too.
Yeah, absolutely. I was getting ready for bed on the rare occasion that I was trying to go to bed early because I had to be up early the next morning, and I get a text from Ted, who knows that I'm usually up late, and he says, "I know you're a night owl. There's this guy that I just stumbled across on Twitch that's playing guitar. He's playing metal tunes, and he's taking requests. You got to check him out." So I'm about to go to sleep, but I take out my iPad and I pull the Twitch app up and I navigate over to this guy's channel, and sure enough, he's playing some amazing heavy metal tunes, and I'm relatively new to Twitch, so I'm still trying to figure out how everything works. He had a set list, I guess, or a request list of songs that he knew that you could pull up and, you know, pick a song off the list and request it. So I, surprisingly, I think, and much to Ted's surprise, picked Pantera instead of
It wasn't a Metallica song. I was like, there's Metallica on his list. Kayla's going to choose Metallica.
And she chose...
No brainer. And she chose Pantera, and I was like, whoa, now we're talking, because that's my jam.
I was seriously eyeing, because he had Trapped Under Ice on his list, and I was eyeing that, but then I was like, no, I want to see if he can pull off some Pantera here. So this guy, username is Krebelstar on both Twitch and YouTube. I didn't put in a specific song. I just said Pantera. So he was trying to figure out what song he was going to play, and he's got all these backing tracks. And at one point, he goes, I'll play this medley track, and he pulls up this medley backing track, and it must have had at least 10 Pantera songs from their catalog in this one medley that he played. And I get another text from Ted. Now, mind you, at this point, it's maybe
12:30.
1:15, yeah, somewhere. It's like, late.
Yeah.
It's late in the morning, late in the evening, early in the morning, and Ted goes, learn the guitar parts, I'm learning the drum parts, we're playing this at the next jam session. I'm like, well, geez.
No pressure.
There's a tall order, but I guess I don't have much going on between now and whenever we can have the next jam session, so I've got some homework and some time here. So I needed to, as I said, I needed to get to bed early, and I was like, I'll just check out a few minutes of this guy's stuff, and then I really need to get some sleep. I ended up staying on until 2 a.m., and at this point, this guy... I had already signed off.
I had already gone to bed.
Yeah, Ted was like, gotta go.
Yeah.
I stayed on partially because he said he was only going to do, I think, like 2 more songs, and I figured, okay, I can stick around for 2 more songs. He had already been live, I think, for going on 4 hours at that point, just playing guitar and taking requests from people, which I can't even imagine being live and taking live requests from people for 4 hours. That's just insane. But I ended up sticking around till the end. And then a few days later, I discovered that he also has a YouTube channel under the same username. And not only does he have the videos of the songs that he covers, and I think he's got some originals there too, but he's also got some amazing heavy metal hard rock covers of video game songs. So if you like video games and you like hard rock and heavy metal, I definitely recommend checking this guy out. We'll put links to his channels in our descriptions of the show. But it's Kreble Star if you go looking for him, and he does video game
Phonetically, Kreble, Creble.
Yeah, Kreble Star, all one word. But yeah, he does do video game playthroughs on Twitch, but occasionally he apparently plays some guitar as well. And like at one point he brought out a bass and played a cover of Rush's YYZ, which was again phenomenal. I mean, fantastic stuff, and his video game stuff is just as good. So check it out. But on that note, this might be a good time for us to go into our Song of the Week picks, unless anybody has any other stuff they want to discuss video game wise that we haven't already talked about.
I'll save it for the next one.
Yeah.
It's going to be a multi-part.
You guys can do this for do this forever.
Mega Man fans out there,
yeah,
definitely need to check out Kreble Star, because
shout out to what he does for Mega Man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, good stuff.
Just wow.
Amazing stuff. And surprisingly enough, my Song of the Week is not a Kreble Star pick, but it is somewhere along those lines. So if you guys want, I can just start with my Song of the Week pick.
Go for it.
All right. So my Song of the Week was a track called Unsealed by Carbohydro M on OC Remix, which I've talked about at length. It was released in 2014. It's available if you go to OC Remix and you look under the SNES section of the site under Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. You'll find this and a lot of other covers by fans that are phenomenal. This is a metal rock cover, and it's got an excellent sampling of just about every song from the game soundtrack. So if you played the game and you're familiar with the music, you're going to hear even a little snippet from each song that was used throughout the game. And it was in heavy rotation for a long time on my iPod. Yes, I have a video game playlist on my iPod. I have not listened to it in a while. I haven't listened to much of anything on my iPod in a while because, like most people, I'm not really commuting into work a whole lot, and that's kind of when I do that stuff. So I haven't listened to it in a bit, but when I was trying to figure out my pick for this week, I went looking at OC Remix's website under the Legend of Zelda tracks to see, what I was going to pick. And this is a 20-minute song, but it's 20 minutes of bang your head, stomp your foot, tap your toe, move whatever you feel so inclined to move when you hear an awesome metal song. Awesomeness.
Followed by a massive headache, but well worth it.
Worth it.
It's a great track. And as I said, there's lots of other great covers on OC Remix, not just for Legend of Zelda, but for a lot of other songs that you're probably familiar with as well. So head over there and check out some of their stuff, but definitely give Unsealed by Carbon Hydro M a listen, because it's a great sampling of everything, and it's an awesome metal cover of A Link to the Past songs from that soundtrack. So that's my pick of the week. I don't know. We want to. Ted, you want to go next in the order?
I've already kind of hinted at where my pick was at. Obviously, Diablo 2, but I think as I've mentioned, the Act 1, when you're in camp and you're just figuring out where you are in the game, the song that's being played is called Rogue. It starts a little mysterious, and it has an acoustic guitar strum come in, and it just sets the whole mood. As you progress through the song, there's an electric guitar comes in with some nice effects to help move that song forward, and then there's a flute part. And originally that was taken from Diablo 1, and they wound up making some changes to help carry that over. So a bit of fan service from the first Diablo, bringing it over to Diablo 2. And to mention the composer, it is Matt Uelmen, and he's an American composer, well known for basically put on the map for this whole soundtrack. And again, it came out in 2000, and really I mean, I've listened to it twice, this Rogue track twice already this morning, just A, to prepare for this, but B, because I really enjoy it. So definitely going to be high up on my list of video game songs to visit on occasion when I'm not playing the game. So yeah, that's definitely my pick for this week.
Awesome.
So teeing it over, I'll let Keisha, I mean, I know you touched upon a bunch of your different songs for today, but didn't know if there was any one in particular that jumps out at you or what else you had on your list.
Yeah, my song pick is from, we touched on it briefly when we started at the onset, but Assassin's Creed. So Assassin's Creed, the fourth one that came out, Revelations. First of all, I vividly remember watching that trailer for the first time, being like, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to war. Like, it was the song on that trailer for the soundtrack for that game, like, forever changed me. The song is called Iron, and it's by this artist Woodkid. And it feels very tribal, lots of percussion, lots of horns. And his voice is just so subtle and so smooth, but the lyrics to it make you feel like it talks about how this soldier is pretty much like preparing for a battle when he already knows his fate. And for me, if you know me, I'm a little rough around the edges, but like when I'm preparing to go to work, it feels like I'm about to go to war because the kitchen's very chaotic and it's about managing chaos on a daily basis. So I listen to this almost daily. It's one of the songs that I listen to as I'm like pulling into the garage being like, all right, like this is what we're about to do. Or if not on my way to work, definitely during a workout session, because it's just one of those songs that just prepares you for what's going to happen. Like you just picture this soldier like trudging through the mud and like the iron shackles on him or something like that. It's very moving, very awesome. But at the end of it, I'm like, I got this. Like there's so much adrenaline pumping through my veins that I'm literally ready to like take on anything. So shout out to Woodkid, shout out to the song Iron from Assassin's Creed, which is also a fantastic gaming series. I don't know which one, I don't know the number of the one that's going to be released or has been released, but another fantastic gaming franchise.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Awesome. So Matt, I think that leaves you with your pick of the week.
All right. Well, if anything, so one thing that, is, great about, these types of episodes in video games is that we all have a history, on, all coming from a personal side. And playing video games is definitely memorable because I played a lot with my cousins, especially during, holidays or birthday parties or anything like that. So if there's one game that I could relate to, which, all my cousins, completely agree that this one game and this one theme song is just, I think here and there we throw the joke out there too. And, but I'm wearing the shirt. So, hey, Ducktales, 1989, again, going back to the 80s, Nintendo Entertainment System, Level 5, the Moon theme.
The Moon?
Yes, the Moon theme. I'm throwing it out there. It's amazing. Okay, there's words that just can't even describe. And I know when I was talking earlier, I was stumbling over my words and said the word ventilator. Obviously, a Bobo can't kill you with the ventilator, okay, in the game, because there's no point to that. So it's actually a what is it? It is called a, what's it called? Okay, a moving sidewalk. That's what killed me, okay, because the Bobo kicked me in the gut. And
how did you get a ventilator at a moving sidewalk?
COVID times, man. It's a COVID chronicle.
Hey,
man.
I'm not an English guy. I'm a musician.
Holy cow.
So, two different things I want to, but hey, if you could find somewhere in the game of Double Dragon that you get killed by a ventilator, you let me know directly. But anyways,
jumping. It's the COVID DLC.
Could you imagine the game? Like, there's bound to be like a COVID game that comes out sometime.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll happen.
Isn't it Plague or something, that phone game that you basically create a bacteria that takes over the world?
I don't even know.
All right. Anyway, sorry to derail you. Back to your story.
But it's funny. Like we're talking, I'm thinking to myself, wait, what? Did I just say ventilator? Like, okay, forget. So I had to correct that, obviously. And I'm sure our listeners are going to be like, what the hell is Matt saying about a fucking ventilator? Anyways, so getting back, DuckTales NES, level 5 Moon theme. When you listen to this song, it's just got this poppy feeling, and obviously it's the last level in the game, and obviously it's very random too, because when you're playing DuckTales, you know, there's all these different types of random levels too. So you've got like the Amazon level, you've got the moon level, you've got like a water level. It's all random. And I think during that time, you know, Disney was also coming out with, you know, their own video games. So they had Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers, they had, you know, a Tailspin, and then DuckTales came out, and DuckTales just blew everything out of the water to the point where they actually released DuckTales 2, but it didn't get as much of a fan base as the first one did. But when you listen to the Moon theme, it's got like this, you know, fast-paced type of, you know, toe tapping, you know, rhythm to it. And what I found out actually prepping to this episode was Disney re-released DuckTales under a new animation. So they brought DuckTales back. It's a little different, not from like the 80s, like what we grew up on, but the end of season 1, they brought the Moon theme from the game into the series, and it was a remixed version of it. And I'll tell you, you know, YouTubing just this last segment brought some you know, some goosebumps to me, because again, it was kind of going back to, you know, when I was playing this level with my cousins and trying to beat this level, and, you know, joking around even to this day that, you know, today's song of the day is going to be Moon theme, you know, we're all chuckle. So seeing that when it was brought back in 2017, you know, brought a lot of memories back. So, you know, DuckTales, the Moon theme, 1989 is going to be my song of the week for this episode and whatnot. But as always, ladies and gentlemen who's listening, don't worry, this is going to be a continuous subject of distorted opinions. We want to hear what you think. Let us know. And again, everyone who's been reaching out to us that has said, hey, can you talk about this song? Or, hey, I want to be a guest on the show to talk about this song. That's what we want. That's what we want you guys to come on and talk about this. Okay, so let us know what you guys think. Okay, do you agree with what we talked about? Do you disagree with what we talked about? Are you a Wind Waker fan? Are you not a Wind Waker fan?
Are you in the 5%? Are you in the 95%?
Are you not the 5%? Are you a moving sidewalk, or are you a ventilator? You let us know, okay? Because either way, that's what the show's about. So let us know. Kayla, why don't you give us the email?
Yeah, so you can get a hold of us a couple of different ways. You can email us at distortedopinionshow@gmail.com, or you can leave us a voice message on our Anchor page at anchor.fm/distortedopinions. There's a little leave message button on the page there. And while you're there, you can also find all of the platforms that the show is available on in audio-only format, as well as where you can find us on social media. And if you're not already following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, do so, especially Facebook and Instagram. We post a lot of outtakes and bloopers and you know, reminders about the shows. Plus, if you're listening to this and you're not aware, the show is also available in video format, so you can watch the show, and we throw in some visuals and stuff as well. So there's a number of places that you can get a hold of us. There are a number of places that you can watch, and there's a number of places where you can get reminders. But definitely, as Matt said, reach out to us if you have an interest in being on a show, or if you want to share what you thought was a memorable video game soundtrack, because we're definitely going to revisit this topic again. And with that, thank you, Keisha, for joining us on the show today. It was great having you. I now have some songs and some games that I need to go check out after this show. And thank you to our audience for tuning in every week. Without you guys, we wouldn't have a show. So we appreciate the support and you tuning in each week. And we look forward to bringing you a new episode next week. Thank you. We'll see you then.
Thank you.
Okay.